My name is Shamin, the Operations Director of Bamboo Builders, and I will be your host for today. Before we begin, I'd like to go through some of the rules of the huddle. Please remain muted at all times throughout the entire huddle so that everyone can hear our speaker sharing. As you may have recalled, when you first signed up for our event, you have already indicated your preferred breakout room. And as such, after the sharing, you will be placed into your breakout rooms. So during the breakout room session, if you wish to speak, please use the raise hand function, or you can also write your questions in the Zoom chat. As all our breakout rooms will be happening concurrently, do message the facilitator or any Bamboo Builders team member if you wish to switch to another breakout room. However, in order to minimize any disruptions, you may only do this once. This allows you to interact with more than one speaker should you wish to. So let's wait for a few more minutes as more people join this huddle. But in the meantime, we will be showing you a video about what our community huddle is all about. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Through our years of work, we've encountered many young people who know about poverty and want to do something about it. However, many times they don't know how they can contribute or where to even begin. We believe there is power in gathering social leaders and passionate youth from across ASEAN, a community built to spur action and drive systemic change against poverty. And that's why we started our community huddle, to build change better. Through Southeast Asia's pioneering community huddle, meet hundreds of other like-minded people, glean on-the-ground expert insights, and broaden your knowledge on regional approaches to combat poverty. Bamboo Builders Community Huddle occurs every half-yearly. We invite experienced individuals to provide a cross-industry sharing of best practices and skills to build change better in our communities. Bamboo Builders aims to build a participative community where people from diverse professions can be inspired in their passion to alleviate UN Sustainable Development Goal 1, no poverty. Let's hear what our participants had to say.
I found the talks very enriching because I get to learn more about issues in other countries and how organizations step up to address these issues.
I really enjoyed listening to each and every sharing. It's very important to have these conversations today. If we want to help, I think the first step is to gain awareness on the topic itself.
Sign up for more events like this. To get a better understanding of what the issue is like, and from there on possibly meet like-minded people and come up with a solution together.
Alright, if you have watched the video, I hope you have a better understanding of what our community huddle is all about. And for those of you who have just joined us, once again, a very warm welcome to Day 2 of Bamboo Builders October 2021 Community Huddle. My name is Shamin, and I will be your host for today.
Sure, yeah.
So thank you for taking time out today to be present at our event. So let's see which countries are actually represented here today. Maybe you can restart the poll. Okay, I see majority of you comes from Singapore. Thank you all for coming. We have people from beyond the borders, so Malaysia, Philippines. Thank you all for joining us today. I understand that some people are still trying to enter, so we'll give it a few more minutes. But yeah, I hope today's session will be very fruitful for you and very insightful for you. So right now, we'll actually be doing a short photo taking session before we kickstart the event. So please turn on your cameras so that we can see your handsome and beautiful faces. And I'll pass on the time to Gabriel. Gabriel, please. Okay, thank you, Gabriel. So right now, we'll actually be showing you a video about Bamboo Builders.
Hi, my name is Gabriel, founder of Bamboo Builders. We're an education consultancy that builds social entrepreneurs. We do this by equipping and empowering young adults across Southeast Asia with social entrepreneurial mindsets and skills to become effective change leaders in their community. This is the story of how we started. When I was 13, I was on a community development trip in the mountainous villages of Chiang Rai, Thailand. And during my time there, I saw this little girl. She was about 5 or 6 years old, and she was feeding her little brother. And while feeding him, a grain of rice dropped into the sand. She looked at it, picked it up, and ate it. And after coming back to the riches of Singapore, I just couldn't unsee that image. I tried to tell my friends about it, but nobody understood. And understandably so. They hadn't gone through the same experience as me. And it was here that I realized that urban youth are terribly unexposed. We live in a bubble of privilege, and over time, this lack of exposure sets them back in the kind of skills and mindsets relevant for our region. Meanwhile, rural youth would rather work in the fields than go to school, as this puts food on the table. These problems led to the founding of Bamboo Builders. Our experiential programs expose young people to Southeast Asia's most pressing problems, equip them with critical skills, and then empower them to create their own change sustainably. Through our Explore journeys, participants gain insight on social realities in ASEAN and experience hidden inequalities in Singapore. Through our Equip workshops, participants gain social entrepreneurial skills for careers in social impact sectors. Through our Empower trips, participants meet changemakers across ASEAN, learn and impart social entrepreneurial skills by building businesses overseas to fund educational expenses of rural students. We also organize community huddles where participants can meet like-minded people, glean expert insights, and discover opportunities to contribute. Founded in 2017, Bamboo Builders continues to innovate curricula that impacts communities across Southeast Asia. With a vision to alleviate poverty, Bamboo Builders trains and mentors rural youth to initiate school-based businesses that help subsidize school overheads. It then resources them with experienced social entrepreneurs, training, and skilled manpower in the form of urban youths who want to hone 21st century industry skills. More than 31 million youths in Southeast Asia are out of school. Bamboo Builders is working to fix that. Visit our website to find out more.
Okay, I hope that video actually gave you a little insight of how we started and where we are today. Next slide, please. So, to date, we have trained 1,250 young adults, initiated 38 social projects, and nurtured 13 social enterprises under our belt. This wouldn't have been possible without our interns, volunteers, trainers, and our partners. Next slide, please. So we trained confident leaders to change their community through social entrepreneurship. And not only that, we also expose, inspire, and connect young adults to take the first step to help tackle poverty in ASEAN. And that is why we started our community huddle. Next. So we started from a humbling beginning back in 2019 in Q3, having just 25 participants with only one speaker, and that was Gabriel. In Q4 of 2019, we expanded, doubling the amount to 50 participants and invited 3 speakers. In 2020, just as COVID hit Singapore, that was unfortunately our last physical event. We had garnered about 80 participants, inviting 4 speakers. We decided to pivot online, having a pre-recorded event in Q2 of 2020, inviting 3 speakers, having over 372 views. In the last quarter of 2020, we decided to do a live stream inviting 4 speakers in Singapore, gathering 220 views live. And this year, we decided to go bigger and more ambitious and broader. We decided to invite speakers from all over our ASEAN countries. So in the first quarter of 2021, we have 4 speakers from 3 different countries, garnering about 180 views via Zoom. And today, right at this current moment, Q4 of 2021, we have invited 8 speakers from over 5 different ASEAN countries, having a sign-up rate of about 120 people. Thank you so much for joining us today. And with that, for this huddle, our theme is on the impact of food insecurity and on poverty in the region of ASEAN. The COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted many of our lives, and more so for others. So therefore, it is important to understand the impact that food insecurity has on poverty. Next, please. So this is actually the lineup for today's session. We'll have the first 2 speakers sharing, and then we actually break out into our breakout rooms where you get the chance to interact and mingle together with the speakers. Thereafter, we'll come back for the 3rd and 4th speaker sharing and going out to the breakout rooms again for your Q&A section. Lastly, we'll come back to do a wrap-up session and we'll end the whole session. So right now, I'd like to invite Gabriel Tan, founder of Bamboo Builders, to give his opening sharing, as well as what we have been up to this year. Gabriel, please.
Thank you, Shamin. So greetings, friends from Singapore, friends from abroad, and friends of friends. In these challenging times, what we need are friends. And for people living in poverty, sometimes who you know makes the difference between life and death. The same thing goes for us as a social enterprise. Today, Bamboo Builders counts itself fortunate to call you friends. Next. And we've come a long way as a social enterprise. In December 2017, we started as a social project to teach social entrepreneurship skills in Vietnam. And it produced 2 rural social enterprises within 1 year. And we've never looked back. Today, we are using the same content developed through the years to train schools, corporates, and individuals across ASEAN in our methodology. This would not have been possible if not for you, our community. Thank you all for your constant support and encouragement. And thank you for joining our community huddles again and again and again. Yeah, we have managed to train 150 young people, initiated 23 social impact projects, and have nurtured 4 social enterprises. So some of you may realize that the structure of this huddle is a little different as compared to our previous huddles. Right, so we actually reached a stage where instead of me just doing the sharing and the talking, I think we reached a stage where we decided to invite other speakers that are doing great work around the region to also kind of encourage them, as well as to share with them and to get them to share their wealth of knowledge. And at the same time, Bamboo Builders will then start to treat this more as like an AGM, annual general meeting, and you guys are our stakeholders. Yeah, so this is actually our impact for today. For this year. Yeah, next slide, please. And as we look back, I'm filled with gratitude at the impact that our work has created. And I'm just really thankful for our team of interns, trainers, and wider partners who has worked so tirelessly to deliver top-notch social entrepreneurial programs for young people. In March, we conducted an e-facilitation workshop for 15 project leaders, including lecturers from institutes of higher learning such as Singapore Poly, Singapore Management University, Ngee Ann Poly. And then they take these skills to impact their own students in their own projects. We also conducted our first online community huddle with international speakers, inspiring a crowd of more than 180 people. I'm also very thrilled to announce our first corporate explore journey in May with Salesforce. And this has eventually also led to 2 or 3 other programs with them, one of which was an online equip train the trainer workshop where we trained them to educate children on the topic of food waste. Next. COVID disrupted our way of business and even our way of making impact. We had to adapt. In 2021, we launched 5 new programs focusing more on our local roots and an online presence in ASEAN. Firstly, we launched Explore Inequality and Urban Farms. These programs bring youth up close and personal with the realities of social inequalities and food sustainability in Singapore. Next, we've had to change our impact model as we can no longer travel to physically build businesses in rural schools overseas. We're now building early stage education / poverty related social enterprises in ASEAN, and then resourcing them with skilled manpower through our marketing and leadership for good programs. Thus far, we've trained 110 young people from across ASEAN in these programs. We'd like to thank schools like ITE, Ngee Ann Poly, and our partners in Cambodia, Thailand, and Vietnam for making these programs a success. As we carve a niche in online impact programs, we've also launched a Train the Trainer program to equip trainers with a heart that would like to contribute to our mission. Visit our website if you'd like to contribute. Lastly, we've also had the privilege of being recognized as Impact Entrepreneur of the Year. Shimin, next slide, please. Yeah, as well as age 35 under 35's Most Inspiring Entrepreneur of the Year. Yeah, Bamboo Builders has also had the privilege of becoming nominated as by the ASEAN Foundation as one of the top 20 social enterprises in ASEAN. Yeah, we've also had upcoming, we are also launching our Marketing for Good, which is comprising of these modules: digital branding, marketing campaign, as well as optimizing campaign metrics. So if you are available, would love to have you join us. You can visit our website for more details. Yeah, next. And yeah, friends, more than 31 million youths in Southeast Asia are out of school. And after COVID, even more are living in poverty. Thousands are dying every day as we remain cooped up in the safety of our homes. To build change better, we need to connect, not disconnect. But how? Today's community huddle aims to encourage organizations to continue on fighting against hunger and poverty, as well as to bring our friends, no matter what country we are in, a little closer to each other through the power of technology. Ladies and gentlemen, Bamboo Builders proudly presents to you our signature event, Community Huddle 2021, Food Instability and Poverty. Thank you.
So thank you, Gabriel, for your wonderful sharing. And right now, let's begin our community huddle. So in order of sharing, we have Ms. Sam Tamayo, founder of Project Smile in Philippines, followed by Mr. Andrew and Mr. Kokshri, co-founders of Pasang Grub in Malaysia. Next, we have Mr. James Moses, co-founder and CEO of Seedfield in Singapore. Lastly, we have Mr. Muhammad Shazwan, General Manager of the Lost Food Project in Malaysia. So our first speaker for today is Sam Tamayo. Sam is currently working as a program manager for digital transformation at a leading market intelligence company. In 2018, she started Project Smile, a youth-led non-profit organization to uplift the lives of neglected and underprivileged Filipinos, one act of kindness at a time. Under her leadership, Project Smile has recruited more than 500 ambassadors, members, and volunteers. She has also received local and international recognition from prestigious organizations such as the Stevie's Award for Women in Business, Women World Awards, and the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative Unified Awards. She has also impacted the lives of over 30,000 Filipinos in need. She has also received distinctions such as Individual Hero of the Year, Female Innovator of the Year, and the Extra Mile Changemakers Advocate. So let's give Sam a warm welcome. Sam, please.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you again for having me, Bamboo Builders. So, can somebody share my slides, please? Thank you. So this morning, again, thank you for extending an invitation to me in our organization so that I can share with you my perspective on the situation in the Philippines right now with respect to food insecurity and poverty. Next slide, please. So to give everyone a preview of what I'll be covering today, I've summarized it in 5 points. So first, I'll be providing a little bit of background about myself and my organization, just to give you an insight as to my experience with respect to this topic. Second, I'll be discussing the key figures around food insecurity and poverty in the Philippines. So I've compiled some pertinent numbers from notable agencies and institutions to give you a glimpse on the realities faced by everyday Filipinos. Next, I'll be covering the impact of COVID-19. So in this section, I'll be dissecting how the pandemic changed us and how Filipinos responded to this global crisis. After which, I'll be talking about my organization's initiative called Hapag Kapwa. Then finally, I'll be ending with what the youth can do to contribute. I think this is a question often thought about by millennials and Gen Zs. So I've outlined a couple of simple but actionable steps that we can all take. Next slide. So just to give you a brief background about myself, so I am Sabrina Melisante Tamayo, but you can call me Sam. I'm 25 years old and I come from the beautiful country of the Philippines. So upon graduation from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, I immediately entered the world of social impact and technology. Currently, I work as a program manager for digital transformation at a leading market intelligence company. And aside from that, I run a multi awarded youth led nonprofit organization called Project Smile, whose main advocacy is to uplift the lives of underprivileged and neglected Filipinos, one act of kindness at a time. Next slide, please. So over the years, Project Smile has grown strength to strength, as noted in our reach, scope, and impact. Leveraging our strong social media presence, we have expanded our ambassadors, members, and volunteer base and have collaborated with hundreds of organizations. To date, we have helped over 30,000 Filipinos in need through our outreach activities and impact initiatives in our more than 3 years of existence. Because of our commitment, our efforts have been recognized locally and internationally through awards and grants given by prestigious bodies. Next slide. Now that you know a little bit about myself and our organization, I want to give you an overview on food insecurity and poverty in the Philippines. According to a report by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, 59 million Filipinos, or roughly 55% of the population, experience food insecurity even before the pandemic. This means that 1 out of 2 Filipinos have gone at least a day without eating. A lot of factors have influenced this phenomenon, such as lack of income, lack of a stable job, and natural disasters, among others. Unfortunately, this situation was exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Based on the Rapid Nutrition Assessment Survey conducted by the Department of Science and Technology, 62% of Filipino households experience having no food on their tables. The implementation of lockdowns in the country led to less movement, reduced access, and shortage of supplies, to name a few. And because several businesses were forced to close, thus resulting in losses in their livelihoods, millions of Filipinos had to borrow money, barter goods, and even limit their food intake just to ensure that every member of their family got to eat. But perhaps the most ironic and deplorable part of this all is that our very own farmers and fisherfolk have borne the brunt of these circumstances despite being in charge of our country's food supply chain. Next slide. To give you a better idea about the Philippines, we are one of the 17 mega-diverse countries in the world. According to the UN Environment Program, a country needs to have at least 5,000 of the world's plants as endemic species and have a rich marine ecosystem within its borders. And the Philippines has greatly surpassed both criteria. Agriculture and aquaculture are some of the most essential industries in the country, as these sectors contribute heavily to our nation's GDP because they serve as the backbone in terms of income, productivity, and employment. However, these two industries are facing a bleak future. Based on the Department of Agriculture's Bureau of Agricultural Statistics, the average age of farmers and fisherfolk is 57 years old. We cannot blame their children for pursuing different careers because the average income of farmers in the Philippines is just a measly sum of 6,500 pesos, or roughly 174 SGD per month. To give you a little bit of context, Manila, our nation's capital, has been identified as the third most expensive city to live across in Southeast Asia. With this behind, the push behind switching jobs is not a matter of choice, but a matter of survival. During the 60s, the Philippines was way ahead in Asia when it comes to agriculture and aquaculture. Now, we have been left behind. Next slide. But if there was one situation that really opened their eyes when it comes to the importance of farmers and fisherfolk in the Philippine economy, it is the COVID-19 pandemic. The executive director of the Department of Agriculture acknowledged the role of these individuals as food security frontliners. And during this period, they have been recognized as our country's unsung heroes. I put the heroes in quotation marks because despite the widely accepted consensus regarding their significance, many farmers and fisherfolk have lamented over logistical challenges and limited aid. And with quarantine measures being strictly imposed over extended periods, small-scale farmers and fisherfolk needed to overcome hurdles related to transporting their goods. Securing passes were often tedious, and checkpoint queues could often take hours. Thus, as seen in the picture at the left side of the screen, the oversupply of some areas led to scarcity for others. Loss of income became closely associated with food spoilage and wastage, as high-value crops and other products were sold to a fraction of their original cost, and in some instances were left to rot. In essence, the whole chain of farm to table became adversely affected. But like always, when our backs are against the wall, it is when the Filipino people stand tall. Community pantries have sprouted across the country with slogans of magbigay ayon sa kakayanan, kumuha ayon sa pangangailangan, which translates to give according to one's capacity, take according to one's need. This initiative was started by a woman named Ana Patricia Non, who set up a small bamboo stand in her neighborhood. And just a few days after this was established, it became a nationwide movement driven by a communal spirit without expecting anything in return, or as we call it, bayanihan. It sent a message of hope and unity as all types of Filipinos contributed: students, housewives, employees, and even farmers and fisherfolk. Next slide, please. Beyond assisting community pantries, we at Project Smile created a campaign called Hapag Kapwa. With their livelihood heavily impacted by typhoons and the pandemic, seaweed farmers in Caramoan found themselves in a precarious situation. So in collaboration with Agraba Ventures, an agritech end-to-end startup, Hapag Kapwa's goal is to put food back on their tables and rebuild for their trade. Next slide, please. Since its creation in February 2021, we have raised 145,000 pesos for seaweed farmers. To supplement our campaign, we have created different forms of informative posters, organized fundraisers, and launched virtual events, among others. Together with our 40-plus partners, we have turned over flip-flops, food packs, goggles, initial planting implants, nylon rope, and seaweed propagules for hundreds of seaweed farmers in this region. Next slide, please. So at this point, you might be wondering, how exactly can a member of the youth like yourself create meaningful change within your respective communities? Let me ease your worries away by saying this: no act is too small to make a difference. To give you concrete steps on what you can do, here are some tips to get you started. First, spread the word. We live in an era of social media, so let's use our platforms productively by amplifying key issues and concerns. In this process, let us not forget to be bastions of truth and not be purveyors of misinformation. Next, I'm inviting you to collaborate with us. At Project Smile, we actively pursue partnerships with a wide array of organizations, whether it be an SME, youth-led group, multinational, or what have you. Our doors are always open for us to work towards a common goal. In relation to this, you might be interested to volunteer with us. We have dedicated teams that can suit your skills and interests, whatever they may be. If not, I'm encouraging you to join a local nonprofit near you. We need more people to advance worthy advocacies. Finally, you may be keen on donating to our cause. For as low as 100 pesos or less than 3 SGD, you can make an impact in the life of Filipino. Next slide. So if you want to learn more about our work, you can check us out via our social media accounts. We're essentially present in almost everything that you can think of. So Facebook and Instagram, we are at Project Smile Philippines, and our newly launched socials, Twitter and TikTok, are at Project Smile_PH and at Project Smile PH respectively. You can also visit our website, that's projectsmileph.com, and go to our donation platforms. We have one in Shopee and another one via donation.ph. But if there's one takeaway that I want you to get from this short talk, it's this statement. True progress can only be achieved when it takes into account the well-being of everyone. With that, I would like to end my presentation. I hope you learned something new today, and I'd be happy to answer whatever question you may have during the breakout session. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam, for giving us a better insight to the current situation faced in the Philippines and how Project Smile is helping the communities. Next up, we have Andrew and Kokshui from Pasang Grub. Andrew is a serial entrepreneur, consultant, and impact driver. He has been active in community building, education equality, and environmental protection initiatives through his various involvement in NGOs over the years. At Pasang Grub, he is responsible for driving ecosystem building, government and corporate partnerships, and new strategies to grow its footprint. We also have Kokshui, the co-founder of Pasang Grub. Kokshui is an advocate for environmental and sustainability. He comes with a background as finance professional and experience in supporting companies in local startup scene. In his capacity as a co-founder, he is responsible to ensure that Pasang Grub operates in a sustainable manner in finances, supply chain, and project approach. He continuously works with networks of farmers and distributors to find the market to sell excess produce, and at the same time helping communities to receive their daily needs at a lower cost. Please give both of them a warm welcome for today. Andrew and Shui, please.
Hi everyone, I hope you guys can hear me. So thanks Shamin for the introduction. First of all, on behalf of Pasang Grub, we would like to thank Bamboo Builders for providing this platform and the opportunity for us to share more of our work with everyone's presence today. And of course, thank you for everyone for making the time to tune in for today's community huddle. And my name is Andrew, and together with me today is my co-founder, Shiu from Pasang Grub. So we are a young social enterprise based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So to preview our sharing today, let's move on to the next slide. All right, so in the next couple of minutes, we hope to share with everyone's presence here today about our journey in rescuing food, as well as making impact in the community from our perspective in Malaysia. We will also share about why Pasang Grub embarked on this journey and how actually Pasang Grub helped with creating a more sustainable community. So next slide, please. All right, just to give everyone a little overview, Pasang Grub is a social market serving the local low-income community in city areas or urban areas of Kuala Lumpur, as well as the state of Selangor in Malaysia. We were founded in 2016 as a different entity by our ex-founders. But after that, the initiative has rebranded to what it is today at the end of 2019. But throughout the years, our missions and our vision remain the same, in which we strive to promote healthy eating and sustainable living by rescuing food surplus, which otherwise may end up in landfill, and making them affordable for the target community. So in simple words, it's easier to think of us as a vegetable store, right? So, all right, next slide. Okay, so to provide a little bit of context as to why our work and many others, be it NGOs or social enterprise, involved in addressing food securities and poverty is important. Let's think about it this way. Think about a moment where you go out with a friends or probably with families where you order a lot of foods or they order a lot of foods but only finishing half of it. All right, and then of course there might be some of you that have experience working in the F&B industry, and for the sake of so-called quality control, you have experience in having to throw away on daily basis some of your stock or supplies or unfinished foods and produce. And then think about a situation as well where in your wholesale market nearby in your neighborhood, right, where they throw away all these edible foods, right, but probably some with features that is weird or deforms a bit, but finely edible. So looking at this in Malaysia alone, right, the amount of waste of food, edible foods that we throw away each day is about 4,000 tons. And if you compare it, this is equivalent to 3 meals a day for 2.2 million people. All right, and these 2.2 million people actually makes up the hardcore and the absolute poor of the community in Malaysia, and then who do not have access to quality of food. And as everyone is aware, the pandemic doesn't help this, and it's made things worse as the number of poor community, especially in urban setting, increases. So to ensure the increased supply of food in the community, we're helping to reduce spending. It is important for Pasang Grub to target the producer, which is the small farms or the small distributor, which account for the majority of food supply in most developing countries, as well as the low-income community. So you thought how we do that. So yeah, let's move on to the next slide. All right, so it's pretty simple. So we follow a simple model where Pasang Grub partners with small farms and distributors to purchase their supplies, which mostly do not meet the aesthetic standards of the food retail industry, right? For example, being weird looking or deformed in shapes, right? But it still can be eaten, it's edible, right? And redistribute it back to the community at lower than market price. And by doing this, actually, we are impacting the farmers as well, or the distributor, by creating a new revenue stream for them and distribution channel for them. And of course, along the way, we also help at reducing household expenses while providing access to nutritious food for the low-income community, and as such, improving their quality of life. So how we do this at the community is that the supplies are being channeled via opening up morning markets at the community housing, or sometimes, especially during this pandemic, we work with our corporate partners to sponsor a food aid as part of their CSR initiative, so that we can channel them to the most vulnerable community in urban areas in Kuala Lumpur and Selangor. All right, so we also supply this vegetable to small and medium F&B players. And then not only we benefit from distributing the surplus, but we also collect food waste from these settings and then channel them back to farms by repurposing them as organic compost. So we were able to avoid food waste during handling by maximizing our local supply chain network. So these food waste that may end up in landfill pose great environmental risk, as decompositions of these waste actually contribute to greenhouse gases like methane and CO2. So that's basically the simple models that we follow how we can address food security and poverty in urban settings. Next slide. All right, by doing this, for the past 2 years, Pasang Grubs and our partners, our sponsors and NGOs that we work with, we were able to redistribute food to more than 4,500 low-income households as well as welfare centers. This is in turn equivalent to 30,000 kilogram of rescued food with potential community spendings of about USD 100,000 and USD 100,000. We have to be mindful about this because the low-income community actually spend half of their incomes of the month just to buy groceries or food, right? And on top of that, we also helped in reducing 70,000 kilograms of CO2 equivalent. Next, please. So as such, we at Pasang Grub strive to grow more, right? We hope to continue to grow and be part of the circular ecosystem. We always believe in the partnerships and collaborative model in tackling food insecurity issues and poverty. There are 4 areas where Pasang Grub wish to become enabler for the community and also to industry players, which is addressing food security. Secondly is to provide jobs and income, and then green solution as well as to provide education, right? So Pasang Grub plans to be involved in reimagining decentralized farming agenda through improving distribution efficiency of local farms and distributors, and by utilizing community space for community farming, right? And by doing this, Pasang Grub hope to create jobs as well and income through community product development, social financings and franchisings of our morning markets, and by becoming affordable supplier for small businesses, right? For example, who has a store at the roadside selling food. Yeah, so in doing this, we are always open for partnership, as well as in the areas of environmental research, because we need help in repurposing the waste into new usage. For example, cooking oil into biofuels, and then food waste into organic compost, and etc. And we would love to have other impact driver, be it individuals or NGO, to come and collaborate with us in empowering the community, right? By organizing community classes on healthy eating and sustainable eating. These are all the collective efforts, and anyone can be part of the ecosystem. We at Pasang Grub truly believe that. All right, so what's next for Pasang Grub? Maybe we move on to the next slide. Yeah, so having said that, Pasang Grub's immediate plans in the next 6 months or so is to tap into e-commerce market. We're having our mobile apps coming out soon, and then creating new products to have more market options while also preserving the shelf life of the vegetable that we rescued. And then, of course, we want to help more low-income community to run their own community market through franchising of our morning market directly to the community so that they can generate their own income from there. And then lastly, we want to partner more with F&B players. So that's basically the short terms and the mid-term plans for Pasang Grub. So, yep. All right. So I think I'll let my partner Shu share some more examples of our works at the community. So over to you, Shu.
Thanks, Andrew. As shared by Andrew earlier, for the impact Pasang Grub created, we in Pasang Grub are fortunate to be able to work and supported by our committed partners from corporate organizations, local distributors, and NGO alike. While our main activity is to run a social market, the Food Aid Initiative has been the main channel used to reach out to the low-income communities. This has been in line with the restriction brought by the pandemic, as well as the increased need for food aid in the vulnerable community, especially those of whom who have their income reduced due to loss of jobs, as well as movement restriction, order limiting their accessibility to source food. Among the Food Aid Initiative we conducted is via donation by companies such as AIA, which we are able to distribute to more than 16 community housing around Kuala Lumpur and Selangor. We also undertake donation drive in collaboration with NGOs during this period. Meanwhile, prior to the pandemic, we are able to set up weekend market as low in a low-income community housing across Kuala Lumpur. We set up operations in 8 community housing areas, in previous taking paid volunteers among low-income community itself, indirectly providing income to them. We hope to restart opening our morning market again once it is safe to do so. Aside, we wanted to thank the community and of course our partners for the great reception and initiative. We hope we can continue the momentum as such as we call everyone to get involved with the impact drivers at your own community. Next slide, please. For Pasang Grub, we would like to call everyone to be aware of social issues like food security and poverty. At least we can do to avoid food wastage is at our own home by planning our purchase based on our needs. We would like to call on the audience member who are watching us live to share our stories. Together, we generate more awareness to the public. You can contribute to our cause by being part of our ecosystem, whether you are a financial contributor, agriculture industry, or food distributor, whether you are a logistic company, whether you are a government official, whether you are NGO that target issues on health, community, and also the environment. And also if you are environmental organizations that's doing recycling and also repurposing food waste. We also would like to invite individual volunteers, especially those volunteers would like to join our morning market as well as becoming our members to join our food aid program. Next slide, please. Before we end, our message to everyone is that no one should go hungry in a world of plenty. As such, we should try our best to avoid food wastage. Last but not least, you can learn more about our work by visiting our social media and our website. Drop us a line at our email too if you wish to collaborate and make a difference with us. Thank you.
So thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Sri, for your wonderful sharing about Pasang Grub's model on ensuring food security and income for the poverty communities. With that being said, I'd like to thank Sam, Andrew, and Shu for their wonderful sharing. And I am sure many of you have some burning questions they'd like to ask them. So right now, we're actually breaking up into our breakout rooms where you get the chance to interact with the respective speakers. So as a gentle reminder, should you wish to speak, please use the raise hand function, or you may even submit your questions in the Zoom chat. Our facilitators will be in the respective breakout rooms to facilitate the discussion. You may also be aware that the breakout rooms are actually happening concurrently, so do message your facilitator or any Bamboo Builders team member if you actually wish to switch to another breakout room. However, to minimize any disruptions, you only can do this once. So we'll see you back in 20 to 25 minutes. Have fun, and I hope it will be a fruitful discussion for you. See you. Bye. Okay, so for those of you who are here and decided not to take a break, so maybe just to reiterate again from what Gabriel actually mentioned. So next week, we're actually launching our Marketing for Good workshop. So this online workshop is specifically created for young people who want to learn hands-on marketing skills for careers in impact organizations. So do visit our website for more information, or you can PM either Gabriel or I to find out more. So next Sunday, we're actually conducting about 100 participants. We're conducting this program for 100 participants in Malaysia. Yep, so next slide, please. Next slide. Yep, so Bamboo Builders is always looking for opportunities for our communities to join us in building change better. To support us in our training needs, you can also join us to train our trainers or be as a trainer in our trainer pool. You can also choose to sponsor high potential but needy youth who are unable to afford our programs. You will receive a personalized letter from them detailing their growth. So yeah, I'll just leave this slide over here. And for those of you who want to find out more about our marketing workshop, also do let me know. Thank you. Yeah, for now, we'll just wait for about 4 more minutes as more people join back from the breakout room session. Yep, so right now, we'll just move on to our third speaker for today. So a third speaker is none other than James Moses, the co-founder and CEO of Seedfield. So James has lived in Singapore for nearly 10 years. And after years of working for others, he decided to follow his passion and started Seedfield, a social enterprise aimed at bringing about positive social and environmental impact. James hopes his work at Seedfield can fuel the circular economy. And that being said, let's give a warm welcome to James Moses. James, please.
Thank you, Sherman. That's a great introduction. So I don't have much to add to that in terms of an introduction for me, but I'll talk through this presentation about my company. My company is a Singapore-based social enterprise called Seedfuel, and again, we focus on positive environmental impact and social impact. Okay, so slides, please. All right, and of course, I'm happy to be here today to talk with all of you about this topic of food instability and poverty, and I'll share the perspective of Seedfuel on these particular topics. So I think it's worth noting. Next slide, please. It's worth noting that most of us in this huddle today are familiar with the fact that food waste is a very big problem, but perhaps you're not aware of the extent of the problem. So it's estimated that 1.3 billion tons of food are lost or wasted every year. And that's enough to feed all of the hungry people in the world, right? So it's a matter of diverting it. It's a matter of location. It's really an appalling problem. So we basically hold the solution to all food insecurity in our hands, but we're not doing a great job of implementing this solution. So with a lot of small efforts out there, we're working toward that, and Seedfuel is doing just that as well. Okay, next slide, please. So if we specifically look at the fruit processing industry, and we'll focus on mangoes, I'll just set up the problem statement here. That mango production for those countries that rely on that particular agricultural product, it's a very good product. It really adds a lot to their economies. We produce, across the world, we produce about 55 million tons of mangoes every year. But on the flip side of that is the fact that only half of the mango is used, half by weight. So half of it is waste. So the more that we're producing for the economic benefits of the mangoes, the more food waste that we are producing. So we have a very big environmental problem here. Okay, next slide. A few other facts are that these mangoes and most tropical fruits are produced in areas of the world with high levels of poverty. So developing countries are producing the majority of tropical fruits for the world markets. And mango is the _1 tropical fruit of the entire tropical fruit group. And most of these mango farmers are actually smallholder farmers. So we have a situation where the world's supply of mangoes is coming from economically repressed areas. So based on that, based on the fact that we have an environmental problem with the amount of waste being produced for mangoes, and we also have an economic problem, a social problem, in that these are being produced in areas of high poverty. How do we reconcile that? How could we come up with a solution to take care of both of those problems, or perhaps use one of those so-called problems to solve the other problem? And that's kind of what we're doing at Seedfuel and through our partnerships. Next slide, please. So this short video will tell you a little bit of the background of what Seedfuel does. Go ahead.
5 na kapatuig na masura. Mawalan niyang among pangabuhi sa akong pamilya. Pero wala ko nagdahom mas maayo man diani. Ay hatag ang mamulot og basura. Samot na nga ang basura gikan sa mangga. Mao ni ang akong istorya.
Dati akong scavenger sa Mactandime site. Then sige kog pangitag trabaho sa una, wala man kay mudawat sama na ako nga kuan ra kanang high school graduate ra. pagka tukod ani kumpanya nalipay og dako kay gipason mi gitabangan mi kay makatabang nami sa akong pamilya ba.
So basically, yung research namin is more of converting mango waste into high-value products.
DTI help in the first place through the agency, the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines. We are able to file patents for this technology. From there, we look for good partner investors to bring these products into commercialization stage.
I decided to get involved because I saw that it is a very noble project. Our mission vision is to have a holistic and integrated approach to agricultural and food waste. This will help our environment and it also will help our less fortunate brothers and sisters in the community.
Nakatrabaho na ko diri sa James. Maayo na mong pagpuyo, makakaon namin sa kadlaw katulo.
Basura na dito siya niya, nahimo na mo nga pangwartahan. Ang basura dahil nga liso sa mangga, mahimo dahil pangwartahan na mo, nakatabang sa namog dako.
We envision that in the next 5 to 10 years, we are able to expand. We get interest from other parts of the world, like South Africa, and they invited us to establish also the same facility there.
Basically, this is why we are promoting entrepreneurship. If we have more entrepreneurs, if we have more businesses, then there will be more job opportunities. That promotes inclusive development.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so in a nutshell, what Seed Fuel is doing is we're creating partnerships, we're creating collaborations in order to enable the upcycling to occur. So Seed Fuel is a Singapore-based social enterprise. We partner with the group that you just saw in this video, Green Enviro Management Systems, or GEMS, and we help them to market and distribute their products outside the Philippines. And by doing this, we are creating demand, which leads to more product production. And this creates employment opportunities for those folks in the Philippines and Cebu who desperately need these employment opportunities. When we started the factory in Cebu, 4 out of 5 of the workers were unskilled workers, and many of them were scavengers at the local dump sites. So these are people who desperately need opportunities for employment, and we're doing our best to try to, again, grow that demand for these products and bring those opportunities to them. Next slide. So here's just a few more pictures of our people and our facilities that we have in Cebu, where we are producing mango flour, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. Next slide. So just to give you some concrete examples of what it is that we're producing, when we say we upcycle, instead of being so abstract, I'll show you examples of exactly what we're doing. So next slide. Okay, so mango flour is our #1 product. This is made by upcycling the seed kernels from the mangoes. So how this works is that we approach the fruit processors in Cebu because the mango industry is very big in the Philippines. So we approach these producers who are literally throwing out tons of waste every day. It's a never-ending stream. So we get that waste, what is considered to be waste. We don't see it as waste. We see it as a valuable commodity. And we extract that value from it, and we produce products like this mango flour. And this mango flour can be used just like any other baking flour. It's gluten-free, so you must make a few adjustments to your baking process to account for the fact that it's gluten-free. But it turns out that not only does it provide positive environmental impact, environmental sustainability impact, also the social impact, but it's also a very healthy product. It's very, very high in antioxidants and dietary fiber. So we're very happy about the mango flour. Next slide. We also at times have some excess capacity in our factory, and because we've gotten good at producing various baking flours, we decided to turn our attention to surplus bananas in the Philippines. And so instead of those surplus bananas just going to waste, we turn that into banana flour. And other companies are also doing banana flour, so this is not unique. The mango flour is unique. We're the only one in the world that's producing that on a commercial scale. The banana flour isn't unique, but it's still a great use of the surplus bananas. Next slide. Another item that we produce from the peels, the skins of the mangoes, is what's known as pectin. Pectin is a type of polysaccharide, basically a fiber, dietary fiber. And this is used to thicken food and beverages. So jams and jellies, in order to make those, you must add pectin into the recipe to give it that gel-like quality. And right now, the majority of the world market, pectin is made from apple skins or citrus peels. And we figured out a way to make it from the mango skins. Next. Okay, and so finally, we have these products, and Seed Fuel wants to, that's what Seed Fuel wants to do. Seed Fuel wants to be an ingredient supplier as a B2B supplier, potentially a B2C supplier. But we just want to supply the ingredients, again, in order to grow that demand so we create more jobs back at our factories. But we have a novel product, many novel products that people haven't heard of before. So we thought, okay, how can we introduce our products to the market to get more awareness? So we decided that we would start to produce end products. So Seed Fuel produces burger buns here in Singapore, and we supply restaurants in Singapore who use these sustainable mango flour buns in their restaurants. And this gives the end consumer an opportunity to try the finished product so they can learn about the mango flour and they can actually taste it, because in the end, taste is king. Your products must taste good if you really want them to survive long term. So we sell these to restaurants. We also sell these at retail as well. Next slide. Next slide. So some of the products that we're working on now also involve upcycling food waste, but these specifically are focused on the waste stream in Singapore. So we're working with Temasek Polytechnic on a research collaboration at the moment. And there's a number of products that we're trying to optimize, and they include alternative proteins, low GI foods. These are glycemic index foods. So to be low glycemic index, low GI, means that after you ingest the food, the blood glucose does not spike. It does not significantly rise in a short period of time. The carbohydrates in the food are absorbed by your body more slowly, and your blood glucose doesn't spike. And this is very, very important for diabetic people and pre-diabetic people. So they really need to focus on low GI foods. And lastly, we're working on an eco-enzyme cleaner. So these are antimicrobial cleaning products, again, made from food waste. So we're taking what was once just completely thrown out, and people thought there were no uses for this, and we're showing that indeed there is value in this waste stream, right? So we're pretty excited about these things. Next slide. Okay, so I've been asked to try to get some points across on how you can get involved in fighting food instability and poverty. And so from our perspective, from Seed Fuel's perspective, I've got a number of points here that I can highlight. And I think these are all valid points, and any one of you in the audience can do any one of these, just depending on your appetite and how you want to go about in this cause, right? So the first one is to just create a business in this space. Create a business to try to help fight food instability and poverty, or you can do like we did and really go for the scientific breakthrough. The patented process of converting the food waste into a usable product. Or if that requires a lot of R&D, that requires a lot of time and effort, or you can actually just start a support business. And I think our friends at Pasang Grub earlier mentioned that there's a whole ecosystem around all of these sustainable ideas and all of these ideas of repurposing food and upcycling food. There's a whole ecosystem of businesses that are required for this to happen. So you can start one of those businesses as well, right? So a support business in this field. If you don't want to start your own business, you can always intern or volunteer at an organization in your particular area. That'll help you to get an understanding of the space. It helps you to contribute. At the end of the day, you feel really good about contributing your time. Again, whether it's an internship or a volunteer opportunity. And if you don't really have time for either of those, but you still want to make a difference in food instability and poverty alleviation, you can simply support the existing businesses that are out there, right? You can purchase products, purchase services from the existing companies, or you can just simply spread the word about these companies that are out there trying to fight these terrible problems. As somebody mentioned earlier, we live in a world of social media. Just choose to spread the word of all these companies doing really good work, right? And that will really help the effort overall, I think. Next. And that's all I have today for my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James, for sharing more about the upcycling of mango waste stream and thereby reducing food loss and providing secure employment opportunities. Lastly, we have Muhammad Sazwan from the Lost Food Project in Malaysia. He is responsible for heading new initiatives to keep the organization operating sustainably and procuring new partnerships to expand the mission of feeding the hungry, not the landfill. He also brings to the Lost Food Project a vast experience in corporate communications and humanitarian work, where he previously worked in an NGO. Please give a warm welcome to Sazwan. Sazwan, please.
All right. Hi, thank you, Shimin. Hi, everyone. Sazwan here from the Lost Food Project. I guess I'll jump straight into it. All right. So the Lost Food Project, and I'll go into a bit of detail later. So basically, we are a food bank. Food banking is, just as the name mentions, and we rescue surplus food while distributing the same to, B40 or underprivileged communities across Malaysia, in Selangor, Kuala Lumpur, Johor, Penang, and so on. So if you're familiar with the makeup of Malaysia in terms of the communities and the people, so there is a category of people that we term as B40 communities. They live in low-cost housing, low-cost projects, houses, and flats, and so on and so forth. And also the communities, within the charity NGO network. Next slide, please. All right, so I think this is something that has been touched on before, even by the previous presenter. We talked about food waste being a big issue globally, and this is contributed, from all parties, whether it's developed countries or developing countries. We waste around 1/3 of all food produced for human consumption. Next, please. All right, so in terms of the calories lost from the wasted food, because we waste so much, 1/3 of all production, and at the same time we have massive amount of people in malnourished, in living in poverty, in vulnerable conditions, and so on and so forth. So we are living in a situation where all these foods represents calories being lost or wasted. Meanwhile, the millions and millions of people who are actually in destitute, living in destitute, and so on and so forth. So this is something that we try to kind of make that level of awareness so that people are a bit more aware, people know what, just what they are doing, actually their actions, how it contributes to this kind of issues and problems as well. But as I always mention, this is a solvable issue. People losing, not having enough food to eat, people going hungry and so on, is a solvable issue, and it takes a lot of effort, especially from us individually and also as a collective community and so on and so forth. Next, please. So every day we are taking food out of the mouth for the hungry. Giving you an example for Malaysia, I mean, globally we talk about the data being about 820 million people going hungry every single day. At the same time, we waste 1/3 of the food, which could provide actually 4 times over the number of global people going hungry globally. In Malaysia, about 24% of 4,000 tons of food is wasted daily. In fact, Malaysia, on average per household, we waste more than the global average. We waste about 1.6 kilogram of food on a daily basis compared to the global average of 1.2 kilogram. And 4,000 tons of food being edible is wasted daily in Malaysia, sufficient to provide around 3 million people for a single day. If you know the makeup of Selangor, for example, or KL, which has about 3 million population, and Selangor is about 6 million population. If we save all the food that is still edible, is still being thrown away to the landfill, we can actually feed everyone without having to, register people for charities and so on and so forth. At the same time, 22% of all children below the age of 5 are stunted, 15% are underweight, 20% are wasting, and 22% are overweight. And this is a study done prior to the pandemic. In PPRs and low-cost housing areas, in the urban poor children, basically around KL, represents a larger portion of the poverty makeup of Malaysia. And it's a worrying statistic in the sense that this happened before the pandemic. During the pandemic, more studies have been done, and which shows that the situation has gotten a lot more dire. Next slide, please. So, in that sense, as has been touched on by many of the panelists as well, food production is the single biggest cause of deforestation, just in terms of, clearing lands and so on and so forth, to create farms, to build, the logistics aspects of from farm to retail, the urbanization of all this land in order to support our kind of food needs that we think is our food need. In terms of food waste being a contributor to greenhouse gas emission, globally, food waste could be represented as its own country would be third largest behind China and the US, meaning that as big as China and US are in terms of industrialization works, in terms of number of factories are available out there, the number of toxic gas that they produce from all this industrial work, food waste in its own contributes enough to represent the third largest country in the world behind these big two powerhouses. So it is a major concern that maybe we have not really taken into consideration in terms of fighting. We talk about the plastic waste, we talk about the trees and so on and so forth, and everything in the end are very much convoluted in the sense that everything is related to one another. The food industry uses a lot of plastics as well. We clear all the trees and so on and so forth to create farms, but then we waste 1/3 of all these of all these land clearings and so on and so forth to just throw it at the landfill and create bigger costs of environmental concern in the long run. So we need to have a greater rethink about what we do. And one of the presenters earlier mentioned about it being a government kind of approach that can work, and that is very true globally. We can do, I'll touch on our data and stats later, but we can only do so much to make a change and to create all these cultural kind of improvements and so on. But it has to come at a policy making level, and that's where I think we need to be a bit more serious on. Next slide, please. A recent report proposes 50% increase in global food production to fill the world's population, but as mentioned earlier, we are already producing a lot of food to the point that we waste 1/3 of it. At the same time, this 1/3 can actually feed 4 times over the number of total people hungry in the world, and therefore it is not a hungry a hungry planet because we don't grow enough food. It's actually a hungry planet because we waste so much of them. We waste copious amount of food, instead of feeding the people who are in need, people who do not have access to this food, people who do not have access to quality ingredients, healthy ingredients, in order to support their livelihood. And the solution is upcycling, the solution is repurposing, the solution is rescuing all this surplus. And we do not like to call it waste. In fact, we like to call it maybe a byproduct or surplus and so on. So it is about that. It is about solving this issue with the current systems that we have, with the current resources that we already have kind of already there. So how do we then rethink our system, rethink our approach towards food consumption? Next, please. Yeah, so this is what I touched on earlier. It's not a planet because we do not grow enough food. It is because we waste too much. Okay, every spoonful of food is responsible for greenhouse gas emission. All the processing, packaging, the lost food, the 1/3 from farm to table. From the whole throughout the supply chain, in the factories, at retail sectors, and so on. Is contributing to a lot of greenhouse gas emission, is contributing to a lot of pollution. And that's where I think the Lost Food Project comes in. Next, please. At least in Malaysia. And one more thing that COVID-19 has taught us is that we are at the mercy of nature. What happens now, what happens during this lifetime of ours, we are rather fortunate in the fact that this pandemic happens at a time when we have not lost any connection because of the internet. We have not lost any kind of we are very speedy in terms of finding solution to like vaccines and so on and so forth, but we cannot continue to live in the same manner because the growing number of virus outbreaks, whether it's COVID-19, SARS, HIV, and so on and so forth, happening because of what we're taking from nature, what we are encroaching on in terms of other beings' livelihood. That's where I think we have not really learned our lesson, and we continue to do so. We will continue to develop, we will continue to urbanize, and as long as we continue to do these things, we will face a lot more COVID-19. We will face a lot more pandemic. Yes, we are very fortunate because we have the internet now. We have all the studies, we have all the research and development, allowing us to come up with a vaccine within a year and a half. But if it comes to a point where we have 5 pandemics in a single year, we're talking about 5 years, in the next 5 years, maybe another 3 pandemics, we do not have the luxury of time nor effort to continue, and our economy will crumble at every point of time. Next, please. So this is where I go into what the Lost Food Project does, and hopefully enlighten you a bit more about the cause that we're trying to promote. Apart from the rest of the panelists are doing great job as well, and this is our approach towards it. Next, please. All right, so next slide, please. The Lost Food Project, we've been in existence since 2015, informally. We only formally registered ourselves in 2016, started doing work professionally, collecting data, and so on and so forth. Our mission and vision is basically to eliminate hunger, but at the same time, how we do it is we rescue surplus food, and distribute the same to the people who are in need. We are dedicated to working with network of partners and so on and so forth in order to achieve this mission. And as a pioneering food bank, when we first started back in 2016, the same setup, but the same system was not necessarily inexistent in Malaysia. So we took a lot of our, took a lot of guidance, for example, from Fresh in the UK. Yes, feeding the hungry and not the landfill is basically our tagline, and that's what we continue to persist on, and hopefully over the next few years. Next slide, please. I do need to make a note here that ideally we do not need to exist as an NGO. We do not need to exist as a food bank. In the world where everything is ideal, there's no food being wasted, there are no people going hungry. So that's what we aim to achieve. It may not be the case over the next 10 years, 20 years, in fact, but that's something that we aspire to become, just non-existent. The Lost Food Project is a non-profit organization. We distribute food, especially not just food, non-food items as well, sometimes hygiene products, self-care items, and so on and so forth, all donated to the Lost Food Project through our partners. We provide to everyone regardless of religion, gender, age, disability, or ethnic group. What you see on the side there, the picture there is basically the operations at our warehouse. Those vegetables that you see freshly collected vegetables from vendors at a particular wholesale market in Kuala Lumpur. These are fresh. We collect them daily now. We used to collect them maybe 3 times a week, 2 times a week, but we've grown our operations to the point where we are able to collect daily, and you're seeing around maybe 1.5 to 2 tons of daily collection of vegetables being otherwise thrown away if we do not collect them. So before 2017, when we started this operation, they were throwing away tons and tons of food on a daily basis. We are grateful that they have supported us since 3-4 years ago, and have been growing the number of collection at the Pasar Borong. So our support goes to charities, NGOs, and also to PPRs, or what you call B40 community families around Kuala Lumpur and Klang Valley. So we work through a network of parties which are already doing the good work. We do not want to go on and flood the market again, redoubling efforts, multiplying all the different things that are happening on the ground. What we do is, as an NGO, we provide, first of all, logistic support. We provide network, and also we provide the supply of food to these NGOs and communities. Next slide, please. In order to do this, we are in Malaysia primarily right now. We have not ventured out into other countries. We have about 8 staff. In fact, we have 9 staff now, just added another one to help with our logistics operation. We work with more than 35-40 partners, which regularly provides food, the supermarkets, the wholesalers, suppliers, food producers, manufacturers, and so on and so forth, including non-food items. And we have more than 250 active volunteers. These volunteers do work from even marketing, education work, procurement of food, and especially you drivers. We have more than 100 drivers which are active, as and when we need them to collect from a particular charity, for example, in a particular bakery in PJ, for example, and then sent to a charity in PJ. So it works more or less like a Grab system, where or an Uber. In some cases, where you collect from a particular locality, our driver will be there in that particular locality and sent to a charity within that locality as well. Apart from that, we also have chiller trucks and warehouse. So that's the FedEx part of our work as well. So not just the Grab Uber part, but also the FedEx part, where we collect all the bulk items for manufacturers like Nestle, Danone, Euro Atlantic, big companies as well, branded companies. And these bulk items are also sent to our network of charities and NGOs and communities. Next slide, please. So we try to close the food waste loop, in the sense that we start from the very beginning of just collecting maybe donations from members of the public. This will support our operations, because one thing about the Lost Food Project is we are fully reliant on donations from either corporate or public. And what you see there, that 1 ringgit equaling 5 meals, is actually the ratio that we in terms of how many food we are able to provide with just a donation of 1 ringgit. This is because all the food are donated to Lost Project. Most of the food basically are donated to Lost Project. We do not do any food procurement purchase and so on and so forth, and we do not sell the goods as well. At the same time, we try to keep our operations very lean, reliant on, for example, volunteers and a core number of staff in order to do the work. We have, the donation goes into expenses that covers our truck costs, for example, warehousing, logistics, and we have a professional logistics set up with professional logistics staff, with 30 years experience doing logistics work, collecting and distributing items and so on. Then we rescue more than 3 tons of surplus goods from wholesalers, manufacturers, and retailers on a daily basis. So I mentioned, for example, earlier, we collect from that wholesale market. We can collect between 1.5 to 2 tons on a daily basis, fresh vegetables from them. This number has grown tremendously this year, especially. We've been collecting a lot more, not just from the wholesale, but also other partners. I mentioned like Nestle, Danone earlier, but also other, smallholder farmers, other small supermarkets, big supermarkets, and so on and so forth. Also bakeries. I can, share this delights me quite a bit, because we collect daily from bakeries around Kuala Lumpur and Johor Bahru. In a single month, we can collect around 6 tons of bakery. Because these breads and buns are so light, to collect 6 tons of them in a single month on average is just amazing. And the support from our partners are tremendous over the past few years, especially. Now we cover the food. In our standard, among the food banking network in Malaysia, 350 grams of food equals 1 meal. So I'll share our data later in terms of how many meals we've provided over the years. And also we redistribute back again to 10 to 15,000 food insecure children and families on a weekly basis, to the NGOs, through the B40 community partners, to the local governments, and so on. And those food which are not fit for human consumption, we send for refeed, animal feed, or even composting. So we try to close the loop and not have any waste throughout this process. All right, trying to wrap up in 5 minutes. Okay, next slide, please. So so what we do, of course, we want to touch on UN SDG goals, zero hunger, zero waste, and zero carbon. Next slide, please. These are our beneficiaries. Some of them, if you are Malaysian, you might be familiar with them. These are the charity NGOs. Next slide, please. And these are the B40 communities that we cover around KL, Setiawang, Selama, Pantai Pandan. These are actually big PPRs and B40 community partners, beneficiaries. A single location of a PPR might consist between 5,000 to 20,000 people. So we've had to, because the limited number of resources of food that we have, sometimes we have to operate in a zonal kind of operation. So we provide zone A and zone B first, and then the next week we provide for zone C, zone D, and so on and so forth, in order to allow people, as many people to be given the food. Next slide, please. Our impact today. So these are July numbers. We've rescued more than 2.4 million kilograms and provided more than 7.6 million meals. The calculation again goes to 350 grams per meal. But also there are several meals provided, counted there, which are not part of the food rescue. We also have been doing some food procurement operation as well, because of the support from the corporate. They want us to support our beneficiaries, our communities, through larger meal packs and so on and so forth. You can only do so much with surplus. Sometimes meal packs are a bit more wholesome. 5.9 million kilograms of CO2 saved from the food we rescued. Every kilogram of food is about 2.5 million kilogram of greenhouse gas emission. These are July numbers. In September, actually, we've reached a lot more than this. I'll show you later. Next slide, please. So this is this year's number. So in July, we've collected around 800,000 kilograms of food, providing 2.5 million meals. But actually in September, and this is a record year for us again, because of the number of support, I think the great awareness among the public and the corporate especially, we've collected more than 1 million kilograms of food, 1,050,000 kilograms of food, in fact, in September, providing more than 3.5 million meals, because of the food packs and so on and so forth, and saved more than 2.5 million kilograms of CO2. Next slide, please. Apart from that, we also have been doing a lot more cooked meals with restaurants that wants to help us. So again, this is not our core operation, just because we mainly do surplus. But the pandemic has been such a dire situation that a lot of restaurants comes to us wanting to help the beneficiaries that we have on our side, and also cook for them fresh meals. And these are very, very important to them as well. Sometimes they go a week, 2 weeks without any hot meal on the table. So having restaurants do this even once a week, for example, is a tremendous uplift for them, and big motivation for them to continue. Again, for those food not fit for human consumption, we send for animal feed and also composting. Next slide, please. So yeah, see, these are some of the pictures. All the pictures you see here are from our record. The fresh vegetables, you can see very green, very good to eat still. Next slide, please. We've also received hundreds and thousands of eggs over the past 1 year, especially. And those meals, those buns and everything are fresh from not fresh, but those are surplus within date and still quality and still good to eat. Next slide, please. yeah, so that is the Lost Food project. So thank you very much for having me and having a listen. Hopefully, this presentation at least opens up your eye, and if you have anything you need to ask, you can always ask me in the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Saswan, for your wonderful sharing about the current food waste situation in the world and the works that Lost Food Project is embarking on to eliminate hunger in Malaysia. So with that being said, I'd like to thank James and Saswan for your sharing. I'm sure many of you actually have questions they'd like to ask them. So right now, we'll actually be breaking you up into your breakout rooms. So like similar to the earlier session, a gentle reminder is that should you wish to speak, please use the raise hand function, or you may also submit your questions in the Zoom chat. Our facilitators will be there too in the respective breakout rooms to facilitate the discussion. So the breakout room session will take about 20 minutes. So we'll see you back in 1:20 p.m. Yeah, bye. Okay, welcome back everyone from your breakout room session. I hope that you actually enjoyed yourself interacting with our speakers. And right now, it's actually time for us to do a short wrap up of what we have discussed and what you have learned in today's huddle. So do type your answers in the Mentimeter link sent in the Zoom chat by Amanda, or you can also scan the QR code on the screen here. So that's 2 questions for you to answer. So the first question is, how have you benefited from our community huddle over the past 2 days, or at least maybe for today? The next question is, what is your biggest takeaway from our community huddle? I'll give you maybe about 2 minutes to write down your thoughts, and you can submit them in the Mentimeter link. Okay, I saw one response. Someone said that there are many people out there doing very good work to try to alleviate a very big issue. Yes, I do agree, and thank you for this takeaway as well. A lot more insight, and I think collaboration is the key. Yep, and that's also the reason why we organize our community huddle, for you to actually network with various people, not just in Singapore, but also in the ASEAN regions. The quote, feed the people but not the landfills. Yes. Wow, okay. So there's one also that shares that we need to be more aware of these certain issues, social issues, and believe that such platform it's good to meet like-minded people to share these advocacies. Yes, I do agree, and thank you for the sharing. Yeah, so do keep your thoughts coming in. It'll be great as well to just know what exactly have you learned, and also be a good reflection for you. Okay, so as our participants are actually continuing to share their thoughts, maybe let's hear from our facilitators as well. Maybe we'll ask from room A. Catherine, maybe you can share with us, what have you gained from this huddle?
Hi, so my name is Catherine. I participated yesterday also. So basically, I think that yesterday was a really great exposure to like the ASEAN issues faced by the neighboring countries. Then today I feel that I get a deeper understanding on food insecurity, especially from Sam, who shared Project Smiles, and we get to know more in depth about what are the current issues facing in Philippines. And then also the sharing from Shazwan, which is the Lost Food Project. The tagline is very inspiring, and I feel that and I hope that in the future, in the long run, there will be more secure food sources for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Catherine. That's very nice. Maybe you can get room B, Cursing, to do a bit of a sharing.
Thank you, Shamin. Maybe I can share more about Pasang, Grub, and Seed Fuel. I found their sharing very insightful. Both of their organizations are helping the community in different ways. Pasang Grub is providing the community with more accessible and affordable food, which without Pasang Grub's help might have landed in the landfills. Seed Fuel upcycles mango seed to produce mango flour, which can be used in many different ways like baking. Thus, this reduces food waste, especially in a country like Philippines, whereby a large quantity of mango is being produced every year. I learned that a simple action like promoting their socials and websites or doing volunteer work can have a big impact on reducing food waste.
Nice. Thanks, Kasing. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so now that we have heard from our facilitators, I believe that you also want to hear more from our speakers. So speakers, maybe you can share with us 1 or 2 words about your experience today and any last words of advice that you'd like to give to our participants who are present here today. So we can do a round robin session with all the speakers. Yep. So any speaker want to kickstart the session first?
Sure, I'll go first.
Okay, thanks, James.
Okay, so I just want to leave everybody with the thought that, you know, get involved, whether, again, you know, starting your own business or going to work for an existing business or just support. You know, it's basically the slide that I shared at the end of my presentation. I think is really important for everybody to do that, and simply sharing a link, right? Everybody can do that. That is so easy. It takes almost no effort. So even if you're just doing that, it really helps, right? So somewhere in those actions, get involved.
Nice. Thanks, James. Thanks for sharing. What about either Andrew, Shaswan, or Shreyu, or maybe Sam?
Yep,
Correct.
Yeah, Andrew, we can. Sorry.
Sorry,
You
this
first.
one.
You first.
All right, thanks. I mean, it has been insightful for myself as well. For this session, knowing out there's a lot of organizations. Now, I mean, I'm very familiar with the Lost Food projects, but I think the others have given me the exposure to seed fields as well as what Sam has been doing in the Philippines, which is great. So I think for everyone's here, right, especially those who have thoughts to make an impact in their own communities, right? Think about exploiting what you know, and then when you have an ideas, right, you can always start with a small scale experiments, right? It's not necessary for us to be the most unique ideas as you start, because you can always leverage on the existing ecosystems, like what James has been advocating or been mentioning earlier on, right? Try to tap into every single link that you can do and be a support system into whatever there is in the existing landscape. Keep an open mind, because as you do things like social enterprise or NGOs, right, you need to continuously evaluating yourself in the face of success and failures as well, in order for you to be adaptable to learn and open up into new opportunities. And of course, last but not least, right, I think I like this the most. I think a lot of the speakers has been doing this in all their works, right? Collaborate and co-create, right? Because making impact is never a one-man game or one-man shows, right? And of course, if you're new like us in Pasang Grub, right, we are quite new, quite young, and then try to make it easy for others to get involved and to participate in your initiatives. Yep, that's the takeaway that I would like the participants to have. Thank you.
Just one, you want to go next?
Yep, sure. Yeah, I pretty much echo the same sentiment from Andrew and so James with regard to, you know, experting yourself and you start small and be involved, getting active, you know, and so on. But I also like to you know, to again remind that every change starts from home, especially, and we again, and if you can do advocacy efforts, please do that as well. I mean, sometimes the awareness, you know, you can only reach out to maybe if you have 100 followers on Twitter or something like that. Even the 100 can have a wave, you know, of effect, and you know, they have their families as well. And we've seen this, especially because of the COVID-19 pandemic, how people are very much reliant on information they've been getting from social media, from Facebook and Twitter and so on and so forth. So use those platforms to create change, to do good. You know, if you're not able to go out there and you know, get your hands dirty or provide the food yourself and so on, there are many other ways you can be involved. You know, advocacy starts from home, you know, family, friends, and so on. So that's where I think we need to be a bit more kind of vocal as well. Yeah.
Yes, definitely agree with everything that's been said here by my fellow speakers. But if I could add just a couple of points that you could all consider in starting your own journeys is number one, to establish your why. I think at the start of your own advocacies or your own journeys, you have to clearly identify the purpose or the meaning behind why you want to do this, because it will really serve as your North Star. It's not going to be easy, definitely, but I can assure you that it will be so fulfilling and so meaningful as you progress in your own journeys. My next tip is to find and build your tribe. So I guess there's a saying that goes like, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. Meaning it's much easier to progress individually. But if you want to create a bigger impact, then it really is important that you work with other people and you continue on, building and nurturing that community as you all start your own journeys. Then lastly, don't be afraid to take risks. I know a lot of us are quite unsure, like what will happen if I do this? What will happen if I don't do that? So just having that, mindset that you have nothing to lose and everything to gain in whatever situation that you're in, I think it will give you put you in a good position wherein you're willing to accept whatever that happens, and if ever it doesn't work out in your favor, then it's a learning experience that you can take with you moving forward.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks, Aswan, for sharing. Shri, you want to have anything to add on?
Pretty much what I wanted to say, or what I planned to say, is already been said. I just want to say that I have a really wonderful time here, listening and absorbing all the knowledge and what other people have done other than Pasang Grub. So I just want to wish everyone good luck, and also you guys have really did splendid work yourself. We would like to just call to actions that everyone, that regardless who you are or which company you are, which organization you represent, if you want to collaborate with us, we're more than happy to welcome you all to join us, and also to the fellow speakers as well. If you like to ever collaborate with us, we would also welcome that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, speakers. Thank you, speakers, for sharing more of your insights, as well as the advice and steps to take for our audience. With that, we have actually come to the end of our community huddle. But before we conclude officially, we'd like to welcome back our founder, Gabriel, to close off this wonderful community huddle. Gabriel, please.
Thanks, Shamin. And huge thank you to all of our speakers as well. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and your experience. Thank you to Miss Sam, Mr. Andrew, and Kokshu, and Mr. James and Mr. Sazwan. Yeah, thank you. I think all of us learned so much from your sharings. Yeah, I think personally for me, I learned that really like systemic change involves collaboration, not just between organizations, but it also starts from all of us individuals as well. Yeah, so in our own daily lives, looking out for food waste, being conscious of it, and at the same time also being aware about the people in our communities who often go hungry, right? What can we as individuals do about this? So as mentioned earlier, some of the participants have said, like, maybe you can finish your food firstly, and secondly, like just sharing the social media handles of organizations in your own community that are doing these kinds of good work will really, really go a long way. Yeah, so with that, thank you so much, everybody. And I'll hand the time back to Shamin.
Okay, thank you, Gabriel, for the wonderful closing. Before we end today's session, we appreciate if you can actually spend some time to fill up our feedback form. So you can access it via the QR code displayed on the screen and the Zoom link that has already been sent by Amanda. Your feedback would greatly spur and motivate us to continue our work. Yep, so we'll give you maybe about 30 seconds to scan the QR code, or you can click on the link. And while you're actually filling back your feedback form, we have come to the end of our 2-day Bamboo Builders Community Huddle. Once again, I'd like to thank all the speakers for their time. First, Ms. Sam Tamayo, founder of Project Smile in Philippines. Next, we have Mr. Andrew and Mr. Kok Shu, co-founders of Pasang Grub in Malaysia, followed by Mr. James Moses, co-founder and CEO of Seedfield in Singapore. Lastly, we have Mr. Muhammad Sazwan, General Manager of the Lost Food Project in Malaysia. We'd like to also thank a few people. First, our partners for our unwavering support, our family and friends who have been supporting us ever since Bamboo Builders started, Clarissa and the team of interns and volunteers for organizing and executing the whole event. Lastly, it's you, everyone who joined our webinar today. Thank you for taking time off to join us this afternoon. Do remember to follow us on our social media platforms such as Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook page for our upcoming activities. Our community huddles are held biannually, with the next one happening in March 2022. So stay tuned for more updates on our social media platforms. And with that, we have officially come to the end of our 2-day Bamboo Builders October 2021 Community Huddle. Once again, my name is Shamin, and it's been a pleasure to be your host for today. Grow fast, grow strong. Thank you, and have a great week ahead. Bye.